Hello, and thank you for tuning in. This is the video for the updates to the Tri-State Purchase Agreement. I'm going to go through this here quick and just highlight the changes that we have added to the agreement and give a little context as to why. On the first page, nothing has changed here. Everything is still the same. On page 2, we have included in this section number 2 buyer broker compensation. This is a big change from the previous purchase agreement we've had. In the past, we had used the broker compensation form. That is no longer needed, as we will be able to put that right in here, your fee, whether it is a flat dollar amount or a percentage of the purchase price, and the terms of that are spelled out in here. And so as a result of adding this section to the purchase agreement, you no longer need to use the compensation form unless it is multiple compensation. The next section, number 3, is slightly different as well. This talks about the closing. The previous version of the purchase agreement, we had that the closing shall be on such and such a date. What we changed for this version is the possession. Possession of the property to be the actual time of buyer's closing unless otherwise agreed to in writing by buyer and seller. Maybe as early as 8 a.m. on the day of closing. Adjustment of interest rate, rents, and all charges attributable to the seller's possession are to be prorated to the buyer's possession date. Buyer shall have all utilities transferred on possession date. And so we're not having a second spot for possession. It is just assumed that at the time of the buyer closing, it will be given to the buyer unless otherwise agreed to in writing. And this is to help resolve issues where we've had in the past where a buyer closing takes place and the seller or listing agent is saying that it hasn't closed yet because funds haven't been received. And so this will mitigate that. The next change is number 4, sale of buyer's property. And so this is the subject to sale part. 4A, this agreement is not contingent upon the sale of buyer's property unless paragraph 3B is checked. 3B, this agreement is contingent on the close of escrow of buyer's property. See attached subject to the sale of buyer's property addendum, which we will go over the changes to the subject to sale later, and that is a separate video. And so this just says whether it's going to be subject to sale or not subject to sale. And then the next change is going to be on number 12. On number 12, we have added, so that's condition of property. This has to do with the inspection. The property, as of the date of this agreement, including buildings, grounds, and all improvements, will be preserved by the seller in its present condition until possession, ordinary wear and tear expected. Buyer shall have the right to make a final inspection of the property within 5 days prior to close of escrow to confirm that repairs required by paragraph 12B, we'll get to that here in a second, have been completed and that there has been no change in the property condition. The part in bold is the part to pay attention to. The seller will ensure that the water, power, and gas that are required for complete property inspection, appraisal, and final walkthrough will be kept on at seller's expense prior to closing unless otherwise agreed to in writing. Now, the reason this was put in there is there have been times where sellers have shut off utilities and have made it hard to get the inspections done. Now, the exception to this, of course, would be if there is a foreclosed home, they typically don't have the utilities on, and that would be the exception. And they have a special process that detail how the utilities are handled. So this is for a normal arm's length transaction that the seller will keep the water, power, and gas on for the inspection. The next change is in number 15. And in number 15, the section that covers water softeners, except propane tanks, included property. Included with the property shall be fixtures that integrally belong to, are specifically adapted to, or are part of the real estate, whether detached or detached, such as wall-to-wall carpeting, built-in appliances, light fixtures, water softeners, except rentals, liquid propane tanks, and remaining liquid propane gas, except rentals, shutters, shades, rods, blinds, Venetian blinds, awnings, storm windows, storm doors, screens, television, antenna, air conditioning equipment, except window type, door chimes, automatic garage door opener, electric service cables, bathroom mirrors, And so some things have been changed in there. And so just make sure that you're aware of what is in that list for the included property. And that covers the changes that have been made in the Tri-State Purchase Agreement. This will be updated and put into Lone Wolf to be used immediately. And as a reminder, buyer agrees to pay Keller Williams a $250 compliance fee at the time of closing, covering compliance, administrative costs, and records maintenance. This is not optional. It is a required buyer fee. If you have questions about that, please talk to myself or any of the other leadership team. And at the bottom, again, this is all the same. Nothing's changed in this section. Shows the signature page for your self and your clients. If you have any questions about the updates, please let me know. Thanks.